Thinking of playing Death Ride Kursk, Totenkopf. So we're back here to the to what I like to call the utterly engrossing world of Death Ride. One thing I've been missing this whole time since I started DRK here is I have forgotten one of the fire combat DRMs, and that is fire is elite. That's a +2, so that's a pretty significant modifier. Now I believe that both sides here are going to be considered elite, but I'm about ready to verify that. So I'm gonna take a look at the master rules, and I'm also going to take a look at the orders of battle for both sides. So our German recon unit here, formation, comes from TR, which I believe is Totenkopf Regiment. Okay, I guess I got to take that back. I'm not sure about that. But here's Death Ride Kursk Totenkopf, German Order of Battle. We've got the 2nd SS Corps, 2nd SS Panzer Corps. And then we have the 3rd SS Panzer Division, Panzer Grenadier Division. That's misleading, but anyways, we have it here, 3rd SS Panzer Grenadier Division. And right over here is us, our TR unit there. So maybe it's Totenkopf Recon or something else. I don't know. But all of this is suggesting to me that all these units are elite. And then on the Soviet side, we have the 51st Guards Rifle Division headquarters in play, and then we have down here we have the 154th Guards Rifle Regiment, which again is telling me by the color, well, it's guards in the name too, but the shading, the darker shading, this red versus that slightly lighter red, the darker red is telling me that they are elite. So we have elite Soviets against elite Germans. So all of these fires should be getting a +2 DRM in our little demo here. Okay, so we basically have essentially a company up here in Overwatch, which is good. Within 2 hexes of the first enemy point there. Because I'm moving up the rest of the, what is this, roughly a battalion, I guess? Yeah, battalion, yeah, because this is Charlie Company back here, Delta Company, and then some engineers. Because they're moving up, I'll go ahead and say something about this shading here. The shading that you see along a lot of the contour lines. So this is just, okay, let me first of all say that the shading has a specific game effect. As you probably should guess, there's nothing here. There's nothing here for cosmetic sake. So these are considered slope hex sides, but with the shading. And slope hex sides actually fairly significant cost, because it's +1 even just for foot, +4 for wheeled or truck, and +3 for tracked. So this is actually, so for the tracked, half tracked engineers here, they go 1.5 into this, just from one clear hex to another clear hex, nothing in between. It's 1.5 for them to go up to this clear hex. We're talking 4.5. So it's a sizable cost. Okay. So what I was going to started to say earlier, is these are just contour lines, not slope hex sides. these contour lines have no effect on, and even here, these contour lines have no effect on movement. Obviously, they still separate elevation differences, so you still have those effects, but you don't have movement effects. So in other words, for the engineers here to, for example, to avoid all of these slope hex sides, they could go all the way around. When they got to here, then they could come up the contour line with no added cost whatsoever. So basically there's a gradual slope over here, a steeper slope all here, I guess is one way to look at it. So I think that's pretty much it for movement. So they're going to move up, and actually they might use, they're going to use this covered and concealed route. Actually, they are going to use the covered and concealed route around, so they can get up close to the Germans there without exposing themselves yet. So earlier, I think I pointed to this stack as the Soviet point that the Germans are after. It's actually this one. That's actually the lead Germans. Okay, so the formation is done. So these markers can come off. And then I'll talk about what I'm doing. So we have a company, Charlie Company back here. Charlie Company's back here, still mounted, recon soldiers. I think the Overwatch markers come off now. I'm not positive of that, but I think. Yeah. So we have some recon vehicles there. So we have a Alpha Company there. Yeah, Alpha Company. This one comes off. That's, I think, yeah, that's the 4th platoon of Alpha Company there. So we, behind the contour line there, we have Delta Company, and then the engineers in the lead there, in the half tracks there. And then up front we have Bravo Company. So Bravo Company up front, armored recon, still mounted. One platoon, second platoon is suppressed. Okay, so there we go. Basically a company in a sport by fire position, so to speak. A trail company ready to follow on according to what happens here. Bravo Company in the lead there, Delta Company coming around, yeah, to reinforce the main effort there. So yeah. Okay, I got stumped here, and then it raised a question. So back to the Overwatch markers, and when they're removed. So put those back on, and then the one thing I've found is that under the end of turn activities, there is a marker removal step, step, I guess. And it says remove all markers except air interdiction, supply, command, suppression, or reserve markers. That all makes sense, but that must mean that includes Overwatch markers, because otherwise I don't find any other reference to this. So if that's during the end of turn activities, which is fine, so I'll leave these on here until way at the end of the turn, which is way after the complete Soviet turn. But now that makes me wonder, is that then saying that by implication, because they're under Overwatch markers, they cannot... So now we're going to go to the Soviet player turn. Does that mean that these units cannot do opportunity fire against moving Soviet units? I mean, that is certainly a way to put these rules together. I guess I'll just play that through. Since I don't really have any definitive answer yet, I'll play through the rules as literally as possible, which means, so what is literally as possible? I mean, that means that these markers are on until the end of the turn, which means that when I go into the Soviet turn, they are under Overwatch markers, which means that they will not then be able to do opportunity fire. Yeah, I'll play that through and see how it works. The other thing that suggests to me that maybe that's the case is because... Wait a minute. No, I take that back. Nope. Alright, I'll play this through and see how it works. The other thing I realized is when I talked earlier about a starter kit version of DRK and just playing the operations phase, I realized that we still have to do suppression recovery, which, by the way, I'll go ahead and do that right now. German green suppression would be reduced, but we don't have any German green suppression. Then we go to the second half of the phase, and both players flip red to green. So I'm flipping that red to green. Yeah. There, and flip this red to green. Okay. And then, given that, I probably will just go ahead and do the close assault phase, because that allows the Soviets to use the reserve status and reserve movement.